ज्योति स्टेनोटाइपिंग कॉलेज में आप सभी का स्वागत है बच्चों। कैसे हैं आप सभी? उम्मीद करता हूँ अच्छे होंगे। ये इंग्लिश 80 WPM डिक्टेशन क्लास है। ये CRPF के लिए बहुत ही ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है और SSC के लिए भी इम्पोर्टेंट डिक्टेशन क्लास है। तो क्योंकि SSC में किसी भी तरह का मैटर बोला जा रहा है तो जर्नल पैसेज जो है आपके लिए बनाया गया है। इसमें टोटल 827 वर्ण हैं और इसको जैसे आप जो है लिख करके टाइप करके अपनी एक्यूरेसी जानना चाहते हो तो ये हमारा वेबसाइट सॉफ्टवेयर है jyotisstenotypingcollege.com। ये वेबसाइट है, इस पर जाओगे, एडमिशन फॉर गवर्नमेंट जॉब ओनली बटन पर क्लिक करोगे तो यहाँ रजिस्ट्रेशन करने के बाद आप मंथली या ईयरली इंग्लिश स्टेनो बेसिक टू गवर्नमेंट जॉब के नाम से कोर्स होगा, उसको मंथली भी ले सकते हैं, ईयरली ले सकते हैं और उसमें कर सकते हैं। दूसरा एक FCI का रिजल्ट आया है जिन बच्चों का जो स्टेनोग्राफर ग्रेड 2 का जो जैसे एग्ज़ाम था उसमें जो बच्चे पास हुए हैं तो वो जो है जनरल डिक्टेशन जो हमारी है कैलाश चंद्रा की वो डिक्टेशन लिख सकते हैं और ये वाली भी लिखें तो और अच्छा है। तो आपका जैसे मतलब वो 100% जो है आप टेस्ट वो निकाल सकते हो। बाकी FCI के अंदर इस तरह का जैसे मैटर जैसे कमी में बोलता है वो पार्लियामेंट्री स्पीच से आपका काम चल जाएगा। फूड से रिलेटेड जैसे मतलब उसमें डिक्टेशन ज़्यादा आएंगी तो उसमें आप जो है कैलाश चंद्रा की जो मैगजीन्स है जो मैगजीन से डिक्टेशन बोली गई है वो आप कर लोगे तो बहुत बेहतरीन है। और क्या कहते हैं और इन डिक्टेशनों को भी लिख लोगे तो और अच्छा है। तो जिन जिन बच्चों का उसमें रिद्धि उपाध्याय जो हमारे पास ऑनलाइन बच्ची पढ़ती थी तो उसका जैसे मेरे पास मैसेज आ रहा है, सर मेरा पेपर जो है रिटर्न जो है क्लियर हो गया है तो वो इसका स्किल देने जाएगी। तो जैसे वो तो कैलाश चंद्रा वाली डिक्टेशन आप कर लेना। ये जैसे SSC को कई बार जैसे बुखार चढ़ जाता है तो बुखार उतर जाएगा आपकी बार तो पता भी लग जाएगा आपके पेपर होने के बाद, फिर वो पता लग जाएगा पेपर लेना क्या चाहिए। तो जैसे हर तरह का जैसे मैटर हमने जैसे बोल भी दिया है। अब मैं पढ़ने जा रहा हूँ। डिक्टेशन नंबर है ये 17। हाँ, डिक्टेशन नंबर 17 है और 80 की स्पीड रहेगी इसमें। डिक्टेशन स्टार्ट आफ्टर 5 सेकेंड। रिसर्च इनटू द डीप हिस्ट्री of the human species is a relatively young science which can be divided into two broad periods. The first spans the century between the publication of Darwin's Origin and the end of World War II. This period is categorized by the recovery of the first non-modern human fossils and subsequent attempts at reconstructing family trees as visual representations of the transition from ape to human. The second period from 1945 to the present is marked by a dramatic upsurge in the quantity of research with a concomitant increase in specialization. During this time, emphasis shifted from classification of fossil humans to paleoecology, in which hominids were seen as parts of complex evolving ecosystems. This shift is in no small part due to the incorporation of new Darwinian synthetic theory. Finally, technological innovation and changes in social context are considered as influences on human origins studies. Considering the grand sweep of history, the realization that human beings gradually evolved from some non-human ancestor represents a very recent insight. Even so, the goal of this one brief essay cannot be to provide an in-depth description and analysis of every significant development within the field of paleanthropology, but rather to identify broad patterns and highlight a collection of events that are most germane in shaping current understanding of our evolutionary origin. These events naturally include the assertion of fossil material, the raw data, which is the direct, if mute, testimony of the past. These fossil discoveries are situated among technological breakthroughs, theoretical shifts, and changes in the socioculture context in which human origins studies were conducted. It is only through such a contextualized historical approach that we can truly grasp our current understanding of human origins. Foibles of the past remind us to be critical in assessing newly produced knowledge, yet simultaneously we can genuinely appreciate the enormous strides that have been made. In addition to selective coverage, a second caveat is that this review will focus on research by scientists writing in English. Non-modern hominids are a cosmopolitan bunch having been discovered throughout Africa, Asia, and Europe, and there is a significant literature in other languages. In an effort to ameliorate both of these shortcomings, numerous secondary references are included in the bibliography, providing more in-depth information on specific topics. For example, some texts approach the history of paleoanthropology by detailing a single time period in seeking to provide a useful heuristic framework for the purposes of this particular essay. Human origins studies can be broken down into two very broad periods. The first is roughly the century between 1850 and 1950, when research often conducted by individuals with training outside of anthropology focused on taxonomy and phylogeny. In other words, although scientists were cognizant that climate change, for example, northern hemisphere glaciations, would have directly impacted the evolution of early humans, they were mainly interested in collecting missing links, naming them, and creating family trees. The second period, from 1950 to the present, is characterized by the relatively rapid development of paleoanthropology as it is currently practiced. The emphasis is only partly on the hominids themselves, with ecological context being of equal importance. This review begins with two mid-19th century developments which are often conflated but were initially distinct. The first is the acceptance of a temporal association of human material culture, stone tools with extinct ice age mammals, Van Riper, 1993, Sommer, 2007. This was significant in that it opened up a considerable prehistory of the human species well beyond estimates derived from literal scriptural interpretation. However, while acknowledging a lengthy antiquity for the human species, there was at the time no reason to suspect that the makers of the stone tools were not fully modern humans in a biological sense. The second major development was the publication of Darwin's On the Origin of Species in 1859. Darwin 1859. Darwin is rightfully credited with being the most influential, although by no means the first individual to broach the subject of descent with modification and transmutation theory, as he put it. For an overview of pre-evolutionary ideas related to human origins, see Greene 1959, Bowler 2003. Darwin's central thesis was that all living species shared a common ancestry with endless forms, most beautiful, having diverged via natural selection, and although he only briefly mentioned his own species, the interference was clear. These two events dovetailed into the new quotidian but then controversial notion that humans had evolved over a vast expanse of time. Grayson 1983. While Darwin was initially reticent to discuss human evolution in any detail, his colleague Thomas H. Huxley harbored no such reluctance when he published Man's Place in Nature Essays in 1863, Huxley 1900. Droney freely admitted that the veracity of his audacious proposal would have to withstand paleontological scrutiny, and that his theory would collapse in the absence of transitional fossil forms. Huxley's advantage beyond his more outspoken personality was that he actually had a fossil human to describe. ये करेक्ट 80 की स्पीड रही बच्चों, और जो है वेबसाइट पे इसको लगा दिया गया है। डिक्टेशन नंबर 17 है, पहले इसको अच्छे से पढ़ेंगे और फिर वहाँ जाकर इसको टाइप कर देंगे इस क्लास के अंदर। तय बच्चों, नमस्कार बच्चों।